Hey everybody, welcome in. It's a Tuesday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich, and you're watching live impact weather here on WCNC Plus. The heat wave, I won't say it completely broke today, but we got really, really close. There definitely was signs of change after the 4 hottest days in a row in Charlotte's history. What I mean by that is highs and lows combined, the average temperature was just shy of 90 degrees for the last 4 days. That pretty much tells you something. If you have 4 days straight of it's been 90 degrees almost the entire time or higher, that tells you how hot it's been. Today, just 95, which is still hot. Any other time of the summer, this would have been one of those scorching hot days, but we had a break today, and part of it was because of clouds and showers. So that's where we're going to start tonight with your local forecast. We take a look at the Dallas camera and our WCNC roof cam first. We've got a lot of clouds out there. It's not a lot of rain right now in the Charlotte area, but that cloud cover, it's acting like a giant canopy blocking out the sun, making for a much cooler evening and really a cooler afternoon. But let's look back. These are the last 7 days, 101, 102, 101, 99, okay? Those 4 days, that's scorcher. That's an all-timer for 4 days in a row. That 95 on Thursday, that's what we hit today. So think about that. That's 6 days in a row of 95 plus. It's a pretty hot stretch of weather, even by Charlotte's typical hot standards. 95 and 75, so still well above normal, but not near the record of 103, which is right up there. That's one of the warmest temperatures. Boy, 59 would feel great right about now in 1920. Also notice the precipitation. No rain officially today, but we did have some rain last night. That yearly departure, we still could use some rain. We're about 5 inches below normal in the Charlotte area, and we're making up some of that today and the next couple of days. But you see the radar tonight, we actually had a couple warnings in parts of the Carolinas. One area was down here. That storm dissipated quickly. The thing about these storms, we're going to talk about that with Tim later, these single cell storms in the summer, they tend to just pop up and then dissipate. They don't really move around all that much, and we'll get into why some of us feel like we live in a bubble this time of year. I get this question every summer. the nature of summer storms is people see them on the radar, or like last night you hear or see the lightning and thunder and you think it's heading your way. Usually if it's doing that somewhere else, by the time it gets to you, it's going through a completely different phase in its life cycle. Do have some pretty active storms right now, looking up towards our friends in Morganton, Connolly Springs area, Hickory, the Unifor region. So this is around that conjunction there of Catawba, Alexander, Caldwell, and Burke counties. Those are just kind of sitting there. See how they're drifting, but they're really not moving all that much. And then around Charlotte, we just have light rain. It's kind of nice to feel this because it's not heavy rain. It's not lightning and thunder. It's just enough to kind of keep things cool. And if we look at the wider view, you see all that cloud cover, that giant cloud canopy, we call that convective debris and overcast from these big storms. It is acting like a giant beach umbrella right now, just keeping the sun away. And that's why temperatures are so much cooler right now. Tomorrow, it's still hot. I mean, 94, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but boy, that's the coolest we've had in over a week. So it tells you how hot it is, but also how different this is going to feel over the next couple of days. A few spots will be in the upper 80s tomorrow, and that's primarily because of clouds and showers. So the Futurecast shows, a lot of clouds in the afternoon and evenings, but they dissipate by morning. We will see some fog tomorrow morning, but then the storms bubble up like they did today. So that timing in the afternoon before peak heating kind of helps keep the heat away, at least for a couple more days. It'll still be in the 90s, but we're not talking about upper 90s or triple-digit temperatures. But then things get a little more interesting towards the end of the week. We're going to see a legitimate summer backdoor cold front. In a backdoor front, we mean by that it's coming in from the northeast, not from the west. And you actually see that on our Futurecast. If you watch those clouds in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to grab my cursor here, up in this area right in here, you'll notice that these clouds and the wind flow is coming from the northeast. So that's due to high pressure over New England, the mid-Atlantic, driving cooler, drier air down the eastern-facing slopes of the Blue Ridge, and that's going to wedge up against the mountains. And because of all the moisture, some of that's going to ride up and over it. We're going to see some slow-moving storms develop on Friday. So we're going to go from being alert for heat to being alert for the potential for flash flooding coming up on Friday. So that potential for slow-moving storms definitely going to be there. And you see the setup there with high pressure north, kind of that stalled front. And this will likely be primarily on Friday, Saturday, but I wouldn't be surprised to see showers linger Saturday and Sunday. But the thing to know about the weekend is that flow right there, Saturday, 9 p.m., I think that's the night of Panthers Fan Fest. This could be one of the coolest Fan Fests we have ever seen, because typically Fan Fest, it is like 1,000 degrees in that stadium, and there's big time storms around. It could be in the 70s with clouds. It just and northeast winds. So something we don't normally see. So Panther fans, more reason to get out and see the Panthers on Saturday night for Fan Fest, because it actually could be really, really nice. And that cool weather is going to last into the early part of next week. So not only are we going to see temperatures not as hot, I can legitimately say it's going to be below normal. Now, the precipitable water we call atmospheric moisture, you see there's a lot of it over us. So this is always the concern. If you get a stalled front, you could squeeze out a lot of moisture, especially in South Carolina up to Charlotte, maybe Raleigh. It's kind of that I-85 corridor that we're going to watch. And we already have us in the Weather Prediction Center puts out these excessive rainfall outlooks. And right now, Friday, pretty much all of the Carolinas included in the medium risk. So this is primarily because we're expecting slow-moving thunderstorms that are going to produce heavy rain. And it's so weird. I'm watching Tim. Tim and I are showing the exact same graphic right now. So we're on the same page here. So we're talking about the exact same thing, the potential for flash flooding coming up on Friday. And the amount of rain we could see, could be several inches in a localized spot, and another spot could see a whole lot less. So Friday afternoon, Friday night, training storms. I had a good question on social media, what is a training storm? The training comes from train tracks. Think of the train tracks being where you are, and every car that goes over the train tracks in a train is a storm. So you get one after another going over the same spot, and that produces flash flooding. So that's kind of the concern, especially with a stalled front. And because of the tropical moisture in place, we're going to see tropical downpours. These will be efficient rainfall makers. We're talking giant raindrop kind of setup with these. And so stay alert for updates. Watch us here Tim and I will be talking about this probably every night this week as we get closer to this on Friday. Now, this is just a sample. Like when we show you model guidance, all models are wrong. Some are useful, is a good saying we have among meteorologists. It's because those specific numbers aren't going to happen. Like we're not going to get exactly 2.98 in Charlotte. But looking at that, somebody in the Western Carolinas will get that. It's the location is the difficult part. Somebody's going to get 2 or 3 inches of rain by Friday afternoon. So you see the localized nature. I mean, just for the sake of argument here, let's say you get 3.5 inches of rain like in Lincolnton, but Gastonia gets 0.15 of an inch of rain. So that's the kind of setup we have Friday. So this will not be everywhere. When we talk about localized, this is what we're referring to, localized heavy rain with other areas seeing a whole lot less. So the 7-day rainfall forecast shows pretty consistent scattered to even widespread showers and storms every single day going into the weekend. So your 7-day forecast, a lot less red than we've had recently because we're only alert on Friday afternoon and evening because of the potential for flash flooding, and it's not for heat. Even though it's going to be pretty warm the next couple of days, low to mid 90s is still pretty steamy. It's just not as extreme as it's been. This is actually more typical for summer. But then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we're going to flip the script. We're going back to below normal. Our normal high is still around 90. Low 80s, we're going to be about 8 to 10 degrees below normal. And if we have 60s for lows, I'm actually really curious if we get in the 60s either Saturday or Sunday morning, because that would be the first time we have been below 70 degrees, I believe, since the middle of June. So you're talking a month and a half. We already set the record for the longest streak of 70 degrees or higher in Charlotte's history. I think it's at 34 counting today. So that will be one streak that will be happy to come to an end. And our 90-degree streak could possibly come to an end as well, because on Friday, that could be the last real threat for 90, and then we get below it. That streak right now, I'm going to actually pull up that graphic real quick before we go to Tim, sits at 23 days in a row, which is the 4th longest on record. So if we add 3 more, that gets us to 26. Still keeps us at number 4, but we break a tie with a couple other dates. So if you think it's been a hot summer, you are not alone. It has been hot. In fact, July, I think, is on pace to be the 2nd hottest July on record. The previous, 1986, which was a crazy hot summer. There's a quick look at the 10-day forecast. You see it is better next week. Even as it warms up, we get back to normal. So that's a quick look at your local forecast. We're going to talk more about forecast in the Carolinas. We're going to talk about thunderstorms and bubbles, and we're going to talk about cold air funnels and other funnel clouds, water spouts, coming up with Tim Buckley in just a few seconds. All right, Tim joins us. Tim Buckley, as always, joins us here for Weather Impact Live. Tim, how you doing? I was watching you as I was doing mine. We were showing the exact same graphic for excessive rainfall on Friday at the same time. Yeah, we finally, Tim, I know you guys have been much cooler than us during this heat wave, but today was kind of our first, I would say, break from it. We only hit 95. So it felt a lot better, and we had the rain. But this pattern is going to get pretty soggy the rest of the week. I know you guys have a little more concern than us because you've had so much rain this July, and so you've got more rain heading your way, but we're actually kind of excited for the rain.
Yeah, it's definitely been different. It seems every day that we talk, we're kind of highlighting those differences of our different Julys, right? You're having one of the hottest on record. We're at about our 6th hottest July on record, so that's respectable. What's interesting to me, it's been our number 1 warmest July for low temperatures in Greensboro this month. So we've been very muggy, haven't been cooling down at night. We're doing 75 for a low pretty often, which is not common for us up here. Today we had a 77-degree dew point. It's that kind of a pattern. I'm kind of thankful we haven't had too much rain the last couple of days or around here, because we are gearing up for that once we get into Thursday and Friday. Most of our areas should have recovered pretty well from the big rainfall that we had earlier in the month. But it does look like the trend anyway. Whenever you get a front like that kind of moves in and slows down, I think the hardest part in the forecast for your area and for all of the Carolinas is, where is that front going to kind of stall out? Yeah. And whoever sees it sit and stall, you could get these slow movers that put down good amounts of rain hour after hour. And it might spoil part of that nice weekend too. So hopefully, we're hoping we can clear out nicely for Saturday. We're ready to have a big time on Saturday. but it's a hopefully it's a hopeful, not a guarantee right now.
Yeah, stalled fronts. I mean, it's like upper lows, they say, is the weatherman's woes, but stalled fronts might be up there as well, because the nature of a stalled front is you just don't know where that's going to happen. And as you mentioned, in the summertime in particular, it's rare for us to get a backdoor cold front period. To get it in late July, early August makes me kind of hesitant to say how far south does that thing actually get, because the chance of it hanging up closer to you guys and us is probably better than it making it down to South Carolina, known on past history.
Yeah.
You talked about the weekend. You've got a big event up in the Triad area, and I know a lot of folks from all over the Carolinas will be heading up there. So can you give us an update on what you're thinking for the Wyndham Championship, which is heading up there, which actually has a little more prestige this year. It's the last golf event before the FedEx Cup playoffs start, so some big names have signed on, but I know a lot of people are excited for that tournament this weekend.
Yeah, we're excited about it every year. The Wyndham is always kind of our chance to shine here in the Carolinas and get a lot of folks in here that don't often come up to Greensboro or to the Triad area. Definitely excited that I guarantee you they're going to play golf every day. Even Thursday, even Friday. They're going to play some golf every day. So kind of at this point, it's fine-tuning if you're a fair weather fan, I guess, if we want to call it that. You want to be the best comfort out there. You might want to adjust your schedule a little bit. So to me, and I'll pop this up here while I have you, kind of a way to visualize the rain potential over the next couple of days up this way. Tomorrow, similar to today, there was a few pop-ups here or there. Not a big deal. Round one starts on Thursday and then Friday. Those should be the biggest disruptive kind of days for golf. Now, most of those storms on Thursday and Friday should be in the afternoons and evenings. So if you're trying to get out there for round one or round two, they start teeing off at 7 a.m. You can get out there. It's going to be early, but you can get out there early in the day and probably avoid most of that rain. Saturday and Sunday is when we're hoping that most of that rainfall should be south of our area, and the temperature should be great. I mean, we have it in the 70s as of right now for Saturday and for Sunday. The first 2 days are still muggy. But if you're lucky, Saturday and Sunday not only should have comfortable air temperatures, but we also should have pretty good dew point temperatures. Our dew point trend right now has just been not something you want to look at. But if we play this right, we could have dew points in the low to mid 60s on Saturday, and maybe even lower than that on Sunday. It wouldn't shock me if it's right around 60 for the dew point. So, I mean, you combine a 70-degree air temperature and a low 60s dew point. I mean, way back in the day, they didn't have this thing in the middle of summer. Since they have, I guarantee you they haven't had temperatures quite that comfortable or humidity quite that comfortable either. So fingers crossed. Hopefully it's a great time, and hopefully they can finish it off with the final round on Sunday. And I think they should be able to. Usually they're pretty clever about pairing extra guys up if they need to on Saturday, if they didn't get everything in Thursday, Friday. Hopefully they can get a rounds back on schedule by Sunday to have a nice finish in the nice weather.
Yeah, you make a good point about they're going to play golf every day at some point. It's just a matter of how long and when the breaks are. But I always get that question too. People think outside of baseball, there's very few sports that just get flat out canceled. They just work around the weather, lightning delays, and everything else.
Right.
You might be there a while, but football, golf, you're going to play in this eventually. It's an outdoor sport, so eventually you're going to get that on. So that, as you mentioned, it seems like every year there's at least one day there's some storms at this tournament. So I think they're prepared for it. They're used to dealing with it, and they get those rounds, and they might go off 2 tees, which they do sometimes to get everybody on the course.
Yeah, I'm pretty good buddies with the PGA Tour meteorologist who covers this event. Stuart Williams is his name, and he actually lives in High Point, but his job is a cool job. He travels around the country to do 30, 40 of these tournaments throughout the year, or maybe it's 20. Either way, it's a cool meteorology job to do. But he's there on site. He's got a lightning detector. We've got the radius all set up, ready to go. They have to get these orders out. If you need to get the course cleared, it takes a while to do it for 18 holes. So he's on duty every hour that they're playing golf out there and trying to keep people safe. So you can bet he'll be busy on Thursday, Friday, but hopefully he can kick back and relax on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, Stuart's a great guy. I've talked to him many times, and it's cool that he lives in your area. And I always tell people, that the PJ meteorologist lives in the Carolinas, so he knows this weather better than anybody. Wanted to transition to a topic that I've dealt with a lot in the last, I would say, week or so, because we haven't seen much rain. But I know you deal with this from time to time too, Tim. Summer single-cell thunderstorms pop up all the time, and we get countless questions about some town in our area that thinks they live in a bubble. They swear that every storm goes around them. And the interesting thing about this is I did a map 2 years ago, a crowdsourcing map, and I had people submit if the viewer would submit the location they thought they lived in a bubble. And the map, Tim, was literally every square inch of our viewing area, which kind of told you, like, everyone thinks they live in a bubble. It's kind of like, it's just one of those things. But I think there's a scientific reason for this, and I wanted to get into this in this segment, was talking about the life cycle of these single-cell thunderstorms, especially summer pop-up storms. They're not like the thunderstorms that form on fronts or low-pressure systems. You do a great analogy with your boiling water graphic showing that, it's hard to find where these storms pop up. But the thing about, not only is it hard to tell where they pop up, but usually when they pop up, they don't really move. They kind of dissipate right there. They form and they fall apart. And so I think a lot of times, because everybody has radar on their phone now, and they can hear thunder and see lightning very easy this time of year, they see that storm over there and they think it's coming to their house. But in reality, it's already a mature stage. So we're done with it. So I wanted to start with some graphics, and hopefully you could see these, but Lily, our super intern, got these for us. The life cycle of these thunderstorms in the summer, single-cell thunderstorms, the first graphic is going to be the formation stage, and we know this very well, Tim, the towering cumulus cloud, right? That's kind of what we look for. If you've ever chased as well, this is what you look for as well. So this is the first stage, and in the summer, I know a lot of folks, they want to look for a dark cloud, Tim, but in reality, you want to look for some puffy, towering, coliform-looking clouds like this, correct?
It's right. And, I was posting this tip on Facebook, I don't know, maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people didn't know this. So I think it's good to educate that if you're just out and about going about your day and you start to see really tall clouds forming, that should be your clue that it probably is going to be a storm day and not necessarily a fair weather day. Normal puffy cumulus clouds don't get super tall, but if you're seeing these things way off in the distance getting really big, that's the sign that things are probably going to be pretty stormy going into that afternoon, and that's kind of what you're seeing in this graphic here.
Yeah, so I actually am trying to tell people, look for these first. That's a better sign of rain coming than what is next is the mature stage. So the mature stage is typically what people notice. The storm gets to 40, 50,000 feet. It's got thunder and lightning. It's making all this racket, and it's got a huge rain shaft. We've had some beautiful pictures of these very isolated but intense rain shafts. So usually when this is happening, if it's not happening over your house, good luck this storm ever getting to you, because usually what happens is this storm collapses on itself and pushes out an outflow boundary, and your best chance to see rain is hopefully that outflow boundary ends up pushing storms for you. This is also the reason why at night in the summer people have the mythical heat lightning, which we know does not exist. We talked about that before, but you see these storms from such a far distance, even though you can't hear the thunder. The next stage, Tim, you said was the dissipating stage, and this is often the disappointing stage. I tell people, because this is, if you need rain at your house, it starts moving towards you, and you get no rain at all. So I think it's important that like you said, kind of educate people how you identified. Probably the best advice, and you just gave it, was look for those towering cumulus clouds. That's probably a better sign that rain could be heading towards you than actually seeing the storm off in the distance this time of year, because usually it's going to weaken before it gets to you.
It's true, and you just have to be comfortable. We're so great at predicting a lot of different kinds of weather now with great precision, down to the minutes and down to the miles from your house. Summertime thunderstorms like these, the individual ones that aren't moving much, that is just, we're not there yet. We can't tell you which town they're going to pop up in, and we can't tell you even necessarily, once they do form, how far they're going to go, because like you said, they kind of just creep and crawl and they don't get all that far. to go on this point, we actually had a pretty cool view. One of our lower elevated sky cameras here in High Point, North Carolina this afternoon. They had a couple of these downpours, and you'll kind of see the rain coming down, and then once the rain is done with, you'll see how it collapses, and then you'll also see how new clouds kind of just form right in the background. So if we have that on my graphics, I can play that for you. This is going to be a time lapse. I love to show time lapses when it comes to weather because you can learn a lot just by watching. So let's watch this. It's going to be about 15 to 20 seconds here. To set the stage, you're looking at rain on the left-hand side, and you'll notice as we go along, it doesn't change all that quickly. You're just seeing the downpours, but you can see the different rain bands coming down and just kind of dancing around. And then seemingly out of nowhere, it just kind of stops raining, right? The storm has kind of fallen apart on itself. And in the background, you're noticing all these new clouds just bubbling up and forming on their own. And what's cool about that is that just allows you to visualize and kind of see the air is always moving. And in the summertime, on hot and humid days, it's usually moving up. And when the air goes up, it creates these clouds, which they can create the tall clouds, which make the rain and then the storms. And this is the life cycle of weather. We call it the water cycle, of course. But it is something that's kind of mesmerizing to see, and if you aren't stopping to look around, you might miss it, but we would encourage you to look around. It's a good time of year to cloud watch and to cloud learn, really, about how the weather works, especially in our semi-tropical climate in the summer months.
That's so true. There's just observing is like the biggest thing. Sometimes we got these darn devices, Tim. We don't take enough time to look up at the sky and enjoy things. But one of your Mets, your weekend Met, Claire, got a great image today. Speaking of looking up, and caught some interesting funnel clouds today that we saw across the area. So I think, Lily, you have them on your machine, possibly. I've tried to give them the Lily to turn around, but it looked like a cold air funnel that she caught today. Give us a little background on those pictures. Where were those taken? About what time today?
Yeah, so this was taken in Greensboro, and it was around, I guess it was about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So we had some downpours, the same ones actually that I was just showing you right there on the time lapse. It was right about that same time. This was not something I would be expecting on a day like today, or not something I thought would happen. But what you're seeing is just a very small little funnel cloud. It appears on the edge of those rain showers, and we can call them cold air funnels sometime, which there's some technical reasons for why they form due to instability around a circulation or rising air. We had a lot of rising air today. But it's not a tornado, and it's not part of a supercell thunderstorm, and it's not dangerous, in fact, being way up there up in the cloud. But it is just sort of an example of how the air is always moving around. And again, if you're looking for these things, sometimes you might see one. I would estimate probably most of these go unnoticed. Because we're not always staring intently up at the cloud. Is that what you would think?
Yeah, I would say that the times I get pictures of these, it's either from another meteorologist or somebody who's very weather savvy and kind of knows what they're seeing. Because as you mentioned, most people, I'm sure Claire saw this, and everyone around her is like, what are you taking a picture of right now? It's just one of those things, if you know what you're looking at, you kind of see it. But on that same vein, I got a great video today from the beach. I'm sure you got some because you used to work down in the Wilmington area. But down for Topsail Island, I got from one of our viewers, there was a ton of water spouts offshore today. In this video, it's actually a video sent to me from, I remember his name, I gave him credit because in case he's watching. Jordan Baumgartner sent this to me. So this is on my laptop, Jeb, and we'll play this. This was actually a video he sent to me of a pretty good water spout offshore. But what you can't tell here is this is one of like 7 water spouts he said. He saw when you saw the lightning strike there while that was going on. But there was quite a few water spouts out there. And just like the cold air funnels, Tim, these aren't tornadoes per se. They technically could be if they come ashore, but they form from a completely different mechanism from supercell tornadoes, or what we sometimes refer to as tornadic water spouts, which are actually just tornadoes over water. This is because the water's cooler, or really warm, and the air above is slightly cooler, and you get some instability. And you get these at the coast all the time, and it's pretty cool to see these during the summer.
And a lot of times when you see these, they don't move all that much. So they're kind of just able to be viewed for a while. Now, we should say you should treat these with respect. If they are moving your way, you got to get out of the way. But 9 times out of 10, they stay out there over the ocean. But yeah, like you said, they form in a different way off of these instability currents, the rising airs that you can have over the water. They're actually pretty common in the Great Lakes in the fall, where you have relatively warmer air still left over from the summertime, and you start to get those big cold air masses moving in. You can see a lot of these up that way, but it's a lot more comfortable to view them in topsail when it's nice and warm outside and you're in your beach chair and off they go. But that's a pretty cool view. And with the lightning strike, too, that's something pretty impressive. Probably was hanging out pretty close to the Gulf Stream.
Yeah, that's probably what you're looking at offshore there. And a lot of folks, you got to respect those, especially if you're in a small boat. You don't want to be anywhere near the base of those things.
Yes.
Sometimes you see people taking a run at those every once in a while. Before we finish up the show today, I know you got one more image I think you were going to talk about. We had some nice sunrises and sunsets the last couple of days, and we get things called crepuscular rays and anti-crepuscular rays, or technically shadows. If you get those pictures, send us. Well, we're out of time, Tim. We can't even show it. But if you get those great sunset pictures, send them to us.
Tease.
Maybe we could talk about those tomorrow, Tim. This show always goes so quickly. Stick around, though. Vanessa Rufus is coming up next with more Impact News.